there he is. We'll just do it from
okay,
your
good.
mic.
We'll do it from your
Just
phone.
make sure, like,
Yep.
you put him at your mic.
Okay, so start up the. Now just be careful because we'll be starting the show.
You have a prepaid call from Mbili Barnett, an inmate at the California State Prison, San Quentin, California. This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded. You have a prepaid call. You will not be charged for this call. To accept this call, say or dial 5 now.
5.
Thank you for using Global
Got it.
Link.
You're still not letting me through.
I know. So we use the phone.
It's like when I had trouble. It's like when I had trouble to call you before, and I didn't hear it ring on my end, but it would pick up and the recordings and everything.
Yeah.
That's what I'm getting.
Okay.
Well, we're glad you're here, Eric. And I'm sorry we tried to make it work, but just between everything,
all right.
Yeah, it didn't.
Okay.
You're right.
Let's do
Okay.
that while you still got a little bit of time.
So Richard is gonna get the show started, so we can we'll move on from there, and we'll get a quick start.
Okay, you see the timer on the screen?
Yes,
When it says on the air, you're on the air.
great, thanks.
All right.
3, 2, 1. All right.
Welcome to Talking Peace with the Western New York Peace Center, being recorded at Think Twice Radio, and being also shared by our friends at WBNY, Buffalo's Original Alternative at 91.3 FM. This show is a continuation. We just had a show on the death penalty, and I'm very excited to do this show about the Western New York Peace Center and the criminal justice system. We're thrilled to have Sameria and Mbili that we had on the previous show from Canisius, recent graduate of Canisius University, Ladaisha Williams, who's on the Western New York Peace Center board, and wonderful emerging leader, and Chuck Culhane, longtime activist and Western New York Peace Center leader and member. And we're very excited to have Eric calling from San Quentin and Death Row. Eric, thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome.
So we had a plan.
Your telephone number will be monitored and
They
recorded.
interrupt every now and then.
Okay.
It's okay.
So our basic thing that we like to do is we're going to be talking about the criminal justice system, and you were alluding to some problems in the criminal justice system. So what's a value that you want to think about when you think about the criminal justice system? What's a value that you think is critical?
There's a lot of things, but one of the main things is they got to stop appointing prosecutors to be judges.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Because they never forget that they're prosecutors. In fact, they had a judge up in a federal judge out here up in Yosemite Park in California, and he had a noose hung up on the wall of his office in the courtroom, and it's a framed noose, and it's from his prosecutor's office that he came from before he became a federal judge, and it said underneath it, "Don't forget where you came from." Finally, somebody reported it, and they removed him from the bench. But it took a long time, you know.
Right.
So that's the kind of attitude that they have is don't forget where we came from, and then they make them into judges, you know.
Right.
And then they take and it's for one purpose, and it's so they can deny people who come before them, you know.
Right.
Whether it's at the trial level, and most of the appellate judges, especially, are ex-prosecutors.
Mm-hmm.
And it's done with the design to deny the appellant, prior defendant, a fair review of his appeals, you know?
Right.
And it works. Out here in California, in 1986, they had a retention election for Roseburg, Joseph Gordon, and Cruz Reynoso, and Stanley Mosk. Those four judges were campaigned off the bench, off the California Supreme Court by the governor and a bunch of prosecutors who started basically a retention election, it's like a recall, where if they don't get sufficient votes,
Uh-huh.
they are removed. So 3 of the 4, Roseburg, the Chief Justice, Joseph Gordon, and Quentin also got removed from the bench. Moft stayed on the bench, but after that, he kind of changed his votes and went with the new prosecutors because the 3 judges that they got off the bench were replaced by 3 prosecutors that they took right out of the prosecutors' offices.
Yeah.
And
So-
after that, for the next 21 years, all we had was prosecutors on the California Supreme Court sitting to review our cases.
That's crazy.
And we went from about a 60% reversal rate due to misconduct by prosecutors and courts below to something like a 98% affirmance rate. And the few
2%.
that they didn't affirm, those were penalty reversals. And then we gave it to those guys because they had confessed to their crimes. They knew they could reconvict them again,
Right.
So,
Right.
nobody got off the row for, over 21 years here.
Wow. So
I was going to say, if anybody's interested, there's a U.S. Supreme Court case, Miller v. Cate, P-A-T-E. It's a 1967 case. 386 U.S. 1. That's the site for it. And it's about an Illinois case where this guy was put on death row based on the testimony of the state's experts that a pair of shorts that they attributed to him, which were actually found a mile from the rape of this child, had blood on them. And they brought their expert in to testify that it was blood, and it was the same blood type as the little girl. And the guy gets convicted, goes to death row, appeals in state court, denied, goes to federal court, asks for an independent examination of the shorts, which he had asked for at trial too. But the federal court says okay. Turned out that what was on the shorts was red bicycle paint, no blood whatsoever. And they had used this to put the guy on death row. And in fact, I sent a copy of that case to Governor Ryan when he was reviewing whether to get rid of the death penalty and give clemency to the guys in Illinois. And I don't know if it helped, but I like to think that it did,
He commuted all the sentences.
That's the epitome. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's the epitome type of case that shows just how corrupt the criminal justice system is, where they just manufacture evidence. They bring their experts in, oh, it's this, oh, it's that, and it's not this, and it's not that, and they're just lying. And how are you going to prove it? Like in California, we can't even get an evidentiary hearing out here.
So
none of us that I know has gotten an evidentiary hearing, which is what you need in order to get your evidence reviewed. I mean, I got 37 years in. I've never had a hearing. Never had a hearing. All the courts, nope.
Wow.
You didn't plead a prima facie case. Everything we plead, the court says harmless error. In my case, they forced a lawyer on me at the trial level. I tried to represent myself. They forced this lawyer on me, and he argued I was guilty after I testified for 3.5 days denying it. There's no physical evidence. It's just a contest of credibility between me and a bunch of drug dealers, So it's a contest of credibility, and the lawyer argues I did it. Well, the jury's going to think, well, this guy must have told his lawyer he did it, of course,
Right.
Which I never did because I didn't do the crime,
Right.
And nevertheless, I've never had a hearing on. We've got a half a dozen or more declarations that one of my chief accusers bragged to them that he's the guy that did the murder and he set me up. And I still can't get a hearing. No courts will talk to the witnesses.
So there's go ahead.
And that's where I'm stuck at, I mean, it's really, it's so frustrating. It makes you want to pull your hair out,
Sure.
Like you can't get a hearing.
Sure.
And without a hearing, it's not even evidence.
So
they refuse to consider it.
So there's sort of two streams that I'm hearing. One is, that it's immediate adversarial, right? So they're immediately against you. Whoever the accused is, it's immediate adversarial. So they don't accuse you unless they want to convict you, unless they plan to convict you.
Right.
And then the other thing I'm hearing is about getting the government to follow their own laws about what they are required to do in criminal justice cases, right? Isn't that one of it? The
Right.
issues.
Yeah. Listen, Eric, we got a lot of ground to cover here, but I wanted to mention Billy's in the hospital. Eileen just called me like 10 minutes ago. Yeah, he has pneumonia, and
God.
so anyway, hopefully keep him in thought and prayer. You know.
So are you talking about your
I'm so sorry to hear that.
Yeah,
or your brother?
my brother.
Your brother.
He's
Yeah, right.
testified at Eric's trial.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
Wow.
So
man.
listen, we got to cover some stuff here about the local jail and the corruption in this area.
Right.
Of everything.
But it's
Great you were able to call in. You know?
yeah. Thanks for your patience and persistence and
Yeah.
and in every kind of way. And we're just we'll be hoping and praying and working for a better result.
Yeah.
And all
Yeah, thank you.
all prayers and blessings for you.
We'll
And
be-
solidarity.
This call and/or telephone
We'll be in
And
touch.
love.
monitored and recorded.
Peace and love. Peace and love.
Anything I can do for anyone else, I'm glad to help too.
Great.
Thank you, Eric.
We'll get you out of there one of these days. All right,
Yeah.
brother.
It'll be a celebration.
Yeah. Take care now.
Peace and love. Peace and love. Bye for now.
Yeah. We got to put a little pressure on the DA out there to reconsider
Right.
37 years.
Right.
Have a heart.
Right.
Yeah, have a heart.
Well, so that was a sort of talk about starting it off on a really intense note about this show. So it's very real issues in the criminal justice system. And there's a lot of work to be done and a lot of work that we're doing. So as he was mentioning, that immediate adversarial, especially when there's economic issues, racial issues, not issues, racism and everything, and classism that really works against a person. So that the and then the other thing is the government not following its own laws about what kinds of reviews are required, et cetera. So that's what we heard from him. So if we, can go around and have you each mention. So first of all, when you think of the criminal justice system, what are the values that you want to uphold in the conversation? So Ladaisha, we'll just go around. I mean, Sameria
okay.
is starting with Sameria.
Meltdown time.
Some of the values that I think of when pertaining to the criminal justice system in America, I think is education. Some people are just not, don't know enough information about what's going on. And also just the truth. I think the truth is being disguised. And like Eric was just bringing up, there's prosecutors becoming judges, and the government is taking the position of what God is supposed to be doing, and it's corrupt. It's a corrupt system. So I definitely want to value the truth.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Chuck?
I have nothing to add really to what I said earlier. What Sameria said. Ladaisha?
Ladaisha.
Oh my goodness.
Ladaisha.
That was the wildest one, Chuck. I have to tell you.
Ladaisha. I'm going downhill fast. Yeah.
Join the club.
Yeah. But
I
anyway,
see.
the values of course, to see a system that operates with the like Lady Liberty with the blindfold on. Justice is supposed to be blind, but apparently it is colorblind. It discriminates against people of color and
Right.
against
Right.
poor people generally.
Yeah.
Ladaisha?
I don't know if values is the word I want to use, but thoughts.
Sure.
Reform, period. I'm glad that we have so many different groups that do advocate for, criminal justice. issues locally. I know that Buffalo's doing a great job, but like I was saying in the last show, I believe I just want us to really get back to the rehabilitation that it's supposed to be for. Like, we should be implementing so much more. And I really just want to see a system that works for us instead of for its own hidden agenda, you know?
Right, right.
Yeah.
Well, instead of for this, for the cash, the cash cow
Yeah.
that the prison, you know, from the plantation to the penitentiary.
Exactly.
That's what Wynton Marsalis said. But that is the best quote I ever think of.
From the
when I think-
plantations to the projects to the prisons.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
School to prison pipelines. I mean, it's so
Right.
many. It's a lot of places, a lot of things that end you right up in there.
Yeah.
So I so appreciate that you said truth. And usually when we go around on values, I almost unfailingly will use the value of truth and love. That Dr. King said that unarmed truth and unconditional love will have the final word in reality. And so that unarmed truth, that it really is about trying to find the truth. So it's not the immediate adversarial. So even the district attorney's office, there shouldn't be the bloodhound kind of mentality, you know, that there is that once they've picked a person, they've picked a side, they've made a decision. They're not doing the investigation, and especially then in the courtroom, it plays out even more so, where truth is not the issue. All the little fancy footwork around the letter of the law is the issue, not the actual truth of the matter.
Yeah.
And then love, you know, that the humanity, you know, the caring for people, and that honesty, that truth, that comes right back to truth again, of acknowledging the racism in the system, not being in denial, and not pretending that it doesn't exist, that people don't get a fair shot at an attorney when they have a publicly financed attorney, because the person doesn't even have time to know your case, what to speak of defending you, if they even try to, which is what Eric was just
The
saying.
accused probably knows the case better than the lawyer.
Oh, sure. But then they need to, so they have to have the time to convey that and to go through so that they can have a decent defense. So anyway, so when I think of the criminal justice system, I think of, you know, just all the dysfunction in the system and the bad results that it has, which are evidence of what a screwed up system it is. And so we just need such a different system top to bottom. And that's sort of what we talked about discussing. So I want to turn it over to you, Ladaisha, and maybe, well, first of all, one of the things you mentioned, and you know, that we wanted to talk about, the Peace Center is not alone in this. It's one of, you know, it's certainly about peace through justice at home and abroad. Means it's definitely something the Peace Center is working on, and we have been working on it through the vigils, the regular weekly vigils that Chuck and Monica hold down from Wednesdays from 4 to 5 in front of the holding center. That's 40 Delaware Avenue in front of the holding center. But we're also working with and through Free the People, where you're our representative there. And there's lots of other groups that are, again, doing their own work and also involved with Free the People as well.
Right.
So Voice, PPG, very much so.
Surge.
Yeah. Yep.
There's a lot of great, wonderful groups that are part of it. So many amazing people.
Yes.
It's really awesome. Is this my time? Do I
Yeah,
jump in
this
there?
is your time to go. Yeah, let us know.
Yeah, so like Ms.
Tell
Vicky was
us.
saying, I am basically one of the representatives of the Western New York Peace Center that gets to go to these meetings. I am a little bit new to it, like I was saying earlier. Chuck's been around in those groups as well. But Free the People, they started up around COVID, you know,
Right.
and they basically work towards criminal justice issues, like especially with prisoners' rights. I know some of the topics that were discussed when I was first getting in was, you know, trying to get our clergy into prisons because they have a right to, you know, express their religion and things like that. We don't have a lot of clergy now, but we're trying to work on getting more there. We also have somebody that was we had person who was in the group examining, you know, what the conditions of the prison here in Buffalo is, whether it's healthy, you know, are the prisoners taken care of? And then we also have some, you know, part of the group who's examining like budgets and things like that. It's so many different aspects that people are jumping on just to make sure that certain things are taken care of, that we're getting the truth that we deserve, you know, because prisoners are family, they are people, they are,
Right.
you know, I'm pretty sure that there's a large amount of people that you could talk to who has somebody that they've known who's been in prison or possibly still incarcerated. And so this group definitely just kind of, you know, shares the values of wanting them to get the best, you know, support. So the Western New York Peace Center, we love to make sure that we spread awareness, sometimes through surveys. You can learn a lot more about it on our website, of course. But one thing that I did want to discuss was how the No New Jails
Right.
I wanted to discuss the No New Jails group, which was brought up from the Free the People Coalition, which is awesome. As soon as, you know, we got wind that the sheriff was getting awarded so much money to build a new jail, we were like, wait a minute, what's going on here?
Right.
What's the goal? Where'd this come from? And so these amazing people, they hopped right on it. So now certain things that we are working towards, we've been working towards this since, I want to say, around spring, maybe. I think that's when the issue
Yeah,
really
I think that's
started
around
rising.
when.
So, you know, all summer we kind of just been working, talking to local officials, just trying to make sure that we're included. At first it was, no, we don't want a new jail. We have another center, the Alden Center, which seems like it's more than capable of providing whatever extra space you guys need. It's been worked on in the past, so why not do it again, you know? And another thing that we want to see is, I'm sorry, I'm getting a little shaky.
No, you're good.
Another
It's
thing
totally
that
good.
we want to see is, you know, an increased investment in community service through like a real needs assessment. That was one of our asks. Like, you know, instead of just up and starting to build a new jail, why don't you start an actual needs assessment that looks at what's really needed in the current situation that we have with our jail, you know? And so it actually looks like there's been some steps taken to kind of go back over what that original assessment was. So that's pretty cool. There's a lot going on with that.
So I have a question about that, and I do want to underscore one thing that we had that was kind of a victory about that, which was that originally the legislature, the county legislature, was going to vote on what was a proposed $2.5 million for, let's see, for feasibility study,
Site.
site acquisition, and initial planning, which means we're doing it.
Right.
Yeah, we're doing it, you know. And so we means collectively, you know, the whole Free the People with the Western New York Peace Center and you know, Cake and all the other the RAP and other many of the many groups that support came out. We got 50 people out on a weekday morning, Tuesday morning. 50 people at 10 a.m. came out on a work day. We got them out, and that was when, and with the eloquence, with the people there, with Jerome Wright doing a
Jerome is
great
awesome.
job. Yes, he's awesome. He is awesome, and he's part of Voice and Cake, and he was well, he's done work with in the prison as well. But anyway, and he actually, there's so many problems with that holding center and the sheriff's administration. It's really a crime. But anyway, so that was a victory that they didn't approve that. They approved $800,000 instead of $2.5 million. $800,000 for a feasibility study and needs assessment. So that's that. So if that assessment, or as if you know, do you know more about how that's going on, or?
I mean, well, what I do know solidly, because you know I kind of did come a little bit late, and we had a couple of asks, like, so we want to know that, you know, I want to make sure I say this right, but racial equity lens is included.
Right.
Like we said, the community inclusion is
Right.
definitely important. And then, speaking to those who are directly affected, like we just had Eric on the line. We've got Chuck here. Like,
Right.
and there's a lot of other people who have jumped in, the race with us, who have been a part of the system. But I don't see the county like really reaching out to those people. Like how is that? How would they do that? Are they really including the main people that this is going to affect in the decision making? And like you said, they kind of did seem like they are going to be moving forward with it, no matter what we say. So we're like, we don't want to get left out. If you guys are going to go, well, we still have certain demands. We still want to be included in this decision too. So.
Well, why don't you mention the survey and invite people to take it, which
Absolutely.
you put together. You and Deidre put together.
Yes, along with Colleen, me and Deidre spoke to Colleen because we didn't want to reinvent the
Sure,
wheel.
right,
They've
right.
been putting in so much work, and so Colleen did have
Colleen
an initial
Christich,
survey.
PPG.
And we just wanted to adopt it and kind of just get it out to the public, just so that we're raising awareness. You were at the table at
Right.
Juneteenth with me.
Right.
A lot of people don't know about the new jail. A lot of
Oh,
people
right.
don't know how much money is going into this project, how much space they're trying to create for new prisoners. Is really
Right.
disgusting when you look at it.
Yes.
But I'm just really proud of the No New Jails group because, like, the work that they put in, the extensive research, I definitely want to speak to how they've been meeting up with different advocates, just asking questions, because we're not the only city or county who's having to do this fight. Maybe not at the same time, but other counties have went through this. Some have been successful in, stopping their local government from creating a new jail through great ways, but some people haven't been successful. They still got pushback, even though the people said, we don't want a new jail. They kind of still went along and did it. But Tompkins County was a county that I wanted to bring up, which is a part of Ithaca too. Ithaca's in Tompkins County.
Right.
They were able to curb the number of incarcerated individuals. So, like, instead of building a new jail, they found a way to decrease inmates and prisoners, and so they didn't need one. And it's like, kind of like I spoke earlier to, not reinventing the wheel, but just using other things that have already been here. How can we learn from them, And
Right.
that's something that I really hope that we can adopt here in Erie County, different ways to, take down our numbers. Not that they're super outrageous. I'm not sure how other people's take is on it, but I'm sure that there's a lot of different strategies that we could use.
Well, I want to ask people to go to WNYPC.org, to the website, to take the survey that you put together.
Absolutely.
Because, that gives you an opportunity to say what you think, which, by the way, also I want to mention that we co-authored an op-ed. There have been a few op-eds in the Buffalo News and in the Challenger, for that matter, about why we don't need a new jail. And one of them being because Alden, as you said, the Alden facility is big enough and up to date enough to handle everything. And the only thing is that the transportation needs will need to be addressed to get visitors to and from, or when people are released, to get people somewhere, where they can get to their home, or getting people from there to court. Yes,
Right,
all of those things
programs.
have to happen.
True.
But-
Programs of community-owned transportation is definitely a part of, what we want to implement as well. Like, we need a way to get out there. We used to have a bus that took us out, when they were using that prison out there, but out of nowhere, they kind of stopped it. And so, how are people able to go and see their loved ones? So that's something that we definitely want to bring back.
So beefing up the transportation, whether it's through NFTA or there's a private person who's been doing it as a business, supporting them, or other people, however it's organized. It's just, that's a simple low budget versus building a whole new jail
Right.
for something like $250 million.
True.
So that's one thing. Do you have any? What do you think about a new jail?
What do I think? I don't think it should be allowed.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous.
It's to laugh, right? Yes, it's
Yeah,
ridiculous.
I mean, I just don't think enough people know about it. And the sheriff is an elected official, right?
Yes.
So I'm sure if this goes through, like, I'm not gonna be voting for the sheriff if there's a no new jail, and everyone should know, like, that there. I don't think enough people know. That's the problem, and I think once people know. And they already know that America is has a high incarceration rate. So
Right.
it just shows that we're on that path. We're still continuing down
Yeah.
that path, putting more people in jail.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know that their reasoning behind it. I feel like their reasoning is not strong enough, and that the money is being, it's all a money making scheme. They just want to
Yes.
continue they just want to continue having more people in jail. They can pay their correction officers, and I actually live near a correction officer. He's my neighbor, so I'm gonna ask him his opinion on it, and
Sure.
have him take the survey as well.
Well, I heard they want a new kitchen. That's what I heard. But it's an awful expensive way of getting a new kitchen. But
new
here's
kitchen.
the other thing.
And a helicopter. He wants a helicopter too.
Helicopter.
$2 million.
But the one of the other things is that even the sheriff said that more than half of the people are there for mental health and substance abuse issues. So properly,
responders.
all that big money, the community responders, yes, and the LEAD program that they've said they're working on that they've still never done. Why? They say there's no funding, but there's funding. There's funding for spending $250 million on a new prison, but there's no funding for the law enforcement assisted diversion program, which I didn't even put on our list of things to talk about, because there are too many things that there's great initiatives for criminal justice, for a healthier, happier society. But those are not the ones they want to use. Yeah. The nurturing, the fostering healthy ways is not what they want to use. It's the hatchet and the bulldozer and the punitive tack.
Yeah, I really wish that there was more on, more of a reasoning behind it, because, like I said, the disgusting part for me was to see that they're building a place. They want to build a place that can house
1,500.
Twice as many.
In between twice or 3 times as much. And I'm like, what is the goal here?
Yeah.
What is the goal?
Well, part of it is
The
because
empire. Build the empire.
and also
Yeah.
because the people who have jobs, the people who have their current jobs, they don't want to lose those jobs. And there's some law about how many corrections officers you have to have for how much capacity, right? And so to keep the current workforce employed, that's what they need in terms of capacity. Well, I'm sorry, pick another job, be a teacher, be a construction worker, be a social worker, be whatever you want.
Right.
Use your imagination. There's other jobs out there. But anyway, I wanted the law enforcement assisted diversion program, which the mayor said he was doing 10 years ago at least.
Yeah.
Yelled at me to tell me that they were doing it. They've still not done it. They're not doing it. That slow walking something over a 10-year period is not doing it. Law enforcement assisted diversion means that that the officers should be trained to, when there's an initial low-level issue, that they should send people to, people who can help with either poverty issues, basic needs, mental health issues, substance abuse issues, like that.
Even mediation, just having
Right.
simple de-escalation tactics.
Yeah.
Nowadays, it seems like a lot of cops are on the escalating tip. What's going on? Yeah, it's a little bit much.
So let's talk about the community responders program too, which is another version and an even better version than LEAD, which they're not doing anyway. So they've not done it. They've not funded it. So one of the things that has been suggested is the community responders pilot program, which is something that there's a coalition that's working on that. Free the People is very much you know, in the mix or in the lead with that. Colleen Christich, Nicola Lida Rodriguez, and some of us have been, you know, been working on that. Does anybody, shall we go around? Does anybody want to start with what that is beside me always talking? Do you
The
remember?
community responders
Yeah.
program?
Do you want to? I think you were on the show with me when we were doing that.
Based off memory, I believe it's a civilian led, and we would have people who are trained in mental health, the mental health profession, have some experience handling people who are experiencing substance abuse or just have a mental health issue. They would take mental health calls instead of the police, so
Right.
that, and we wouldn't have that escalation that we are seeing, but we would have someone there to de-escalate, but someone not wearing an official uniform that would scare the person off and create more problems, but someone that would be a peer, a trusted advisor,
Right.
to de-escalate the situation, instead of a police officer.
Exactly.
That's my understanding of
Yeah.
it.
So the team could vary and depends on what the need is and what the issue is and who the person is.
Yeah.
But basically, like you said, a mental health person, a health person, right? Like even an EMT or whatever, some kind of health-oriented person, and a peer, a trained peer who's, you know, just a community person that the person will, and possibly someone who's had the same issues that the person is dealing with.
Yeah.
You know what it reminds me of what, excuse me, India Walton was kind of getting towards. And, you know, she got so much backlash for the, you know, defund the police type of thing. But it was really like just a reallocation of funds, putting them where they kind of need to be.
Right.
Or, you know, letting us try this one thing out. And Daniel's Law.
Yes, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Yes, that's another
That's
one.
exactly what I think of. I mean, it's
Yeah.
the same thing. We've been kind of going around in circles
Right.
for a long time, and I'm wondering what's in the way, like, you know?
Back to job security, and I call it Fear Inc. Fear Inc. being the efforts to control, intimidate, incarcerate, or even kill. So Fear Inc. is the police, the sheriffs, the prison system, and the military. Very much so. It's the stick. You know, there's the carrot or the stick. You can nurture people with a carrot, or you can be threatening them with a stick. So the threatening them with a stick version has gotten all the money. So really, it's not about defund the police. It's about stop defunding the community programs. Stop defunding the community centers and the mental health centers and everything else that has been defunded. They have been defunded. And instead, as the money for that has gone down, the money for the policing, money for the sheriff's department, the money for the prisons, that keeps going up. And what to speak of the military, which actually, I don't want to get too far into the when we were talking about the death penalty, but Chuck, you made a very good comparison the other day when you were saying that the death penalty is kind of like the domestic version of war.
I thought of that too.
You know,
That's
people, it's that license to kill, that state sponsored, state permitted, state, you know, fomented violence on people.
It's the baseline.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. So anyway, so community, there's, if people go to Linktree, so it's linktr.ee. So the dot is in an odd place. It's Linktree with the dot in between the R and the E. Linktree/community responders digit 4 EC for Erie County. So it's community responders for Erie County. There's a whole write-up of what people can do. You know, so ask your legislators, your county legislators to support it. So we're looking for $500,000 for a pilot program to have community responders respond to low-level 911 calls. Now, it's back to they don't, people are afraid for their jobs. Well,
There's other things that you can really. I
Right.
think the cops. I think the cops can be using their time for other things.
Right.
Instead of
Right.
those low-level calls.
Right,
And
that's another
it's
thing.
productive in my
Yes,
opinion.
yes, and most of them would rather, to be able to really work on crime, on actual criminal activity. The vast majority of 911 calls are not about criminal issues. So that's what a study has done, and I think that's why they're afraid of making the shift, because they're afraid that it may mean that we're not heavily policed. But the heavy policing we've seen is counterproductive.
I mean, like, why not implement it in the training that they already go through, like, or like come to these people with resources other than cuffs,
Right, right. Well, that would be if the LEAD program was being. But the other thing is, like, the behavioral health program was put under the police umbrella, and it has not basically been successful. So to my knowledge, certainly when I think about the suit against the police department, that there was no response when Amber Beyer was very insulting, and the people involved were not looking for a court case. They were hoping for an apology or some kind of acknowledgement or some kind of satisfaction, a low-level satisfaction of just an acknowledgement that that could be hurtful, that things that were said shouldn't be said or not in that way, or some kind of acknowledgement of their feelings, and they're being insulted, directly insulted. And instead of doing that, they were stonewalled, and so finally they only came to a court case when they got no satisfaction after more than I want to say about 2/3, 8 months or something like that, I think it was, before they finally filed a court case. But it's back to, because the police are not behavioral health consultants, so they should not be in charge of those efforts. They should have clinicians in charge of those efforts.
Yeah.
And even then, it doesn't mean that social workers or mental health people are able to solve every problem or are perfect or anything like that, but they're at least better equipped to navigate some of the issues that come up.
Yeah.
So anyway, so the criminal justice system, to really be first of all, it should be about crime. So there's lots of things that come into the criminal justice system that aren't even about crime. They're about mental health. They're about substance abuse. They're about poverty.
Yeah, and speaking on poverty, what about bail? Because I know bail has been
yes.
a really big. I think people have been pushing to eliminate bail. Like there's been a lot of bail reform. And bail bondsmen have been. It's an industry. Like people have jobs. We were talking about like the job sector. People, our livelihood depend on people's bail money coming in. So, I think one of like the areas of awareness and something that should be ended is just bail. This 5% or however much percent goes to the bail bondsman so that they can pay someone, pay someone's, to be free. I think it's ridiculous. And
Well, the Western New York Peace Center was definitely part of the reform movement to improve the bail, to eliminate cash bail, or at least reduce the reliance on cash bail. And we had a big victory there, along with all our other people we were working with. That whole campaign had the victory, got cash bail, eliminated, largely eliminated. And then it was, the pushback from the sheriffs, from the police officers, from some of the more conservative elected representatives who went after the reform and said, "Oh no," they had a story or two. I don't know how accurate any of those stories were, but they had a story or two that they used as examples of why, cash bail should still be, an issue, so that they should be able to keep people, with, bail restrictions, and not give people bail, or put these exorbitant amounts of bail needed for them. And actually, the bail reform was successful by
Yeah, I
all
think
measures
Governor
of it.
Cuomo made a public statement saying that if there was a bill that it would eliminate cash bail, he would sign off on it. So I think that's a move forward. He publicly stated Governor Cuomo.
Oh,
No,
Governor Cuomo before.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I
before,
thought you
not-
were talking about Governor Hochul.
No,
right,
no.
right.
Yeah, when he was in office,
Right, when
he
he-
made a public statement that he said he was going to sign off on a bill that it would eliminate cash bail.
And then we did have that improvement, and then it was successful, but too many people were just against it, and so then they pushed back, and they insisted that they made their claims about how
I would
it was.
want to know what the argument was.
Well, their argument was that repeat offenders are using this to get out and reoffend and reoffend and reoffend. So, but there was also some room for discretion. There wasn't no room for discretion. There was some room for discretion. So in those cases, then those would be the cases when the judge could use the discretion. When, you could say when it's happened, 3 times in a row or 4, there's ways around it. You don't just trash
Right,
the
or
whole.
when you miss a court date. Okay.
Yeah, then
Right.
you can,
Yeah.
So those were the arguments that they were saying that dangerous people are being released. That was the argument. But I don't think that there was good proof of that. And in those isolated circumstances where there might have been proof of it, then those would have been the cases where judicial discretion could have been used.
Yeah, that's true.
Because the person is a danger to themselves or others, then they would use that discretion if they wouldn't be allowing them out, period. So there's no problem. So that would be an example of a victory, but it's back to this mindset. And in fact, George Lakoff was what do I want to say?
George Lakoff.
George Lakoff wrote a book called Don't Think About an Elephant, something like that. And it's basically about people's mindsets. And he said, basically there's sort of 2 mindsets. And so it's either you're buying into the patriarch, right? Or the good parent, right? So the patriarch is the sort of the beneficent dictator or something that is back to when we said Fear Inc., but sort of with all the patriarchy and the power structure and all of that. And that the good parent was the nurturing and the sort of the, balanced,
Would it be like the
approach.
carrot and the stick analogy that you?
Yeah,
just
it's
brought
a
up?
sort of like
Okay.
the carrot and the stick analogy, very much like that, yes. And so they said, well, people sort of buy into one or the other of those 2 paradigms, and the facts really have nothing to do with it. So they don't argue facts to people because they really don't care about the facts.
Oh my gosh.
And then also because there are different, when they say there's statistics and damn statistics. So statistics can be manipulated.
That's true.
Depending on how you ask the question, et cetera. So anyway, that is part of that's another way of looking at this question of the criminal justice system and what we think is needed. I felt very proud, and maybe, I don't know if you were in Peace Jam when they were doing this, but it might have predated you when they were talking about, they decided to do a project and it was on public safety, human safety, or something like that. But it was all about fulfilling human needs. So they weren't going at safety is like have enough police around. It was like safety is people should have their needs met. People should have enough to eat. People should have a safe place to sleep. You know,
The redefining safety.
redefining public safety. Absolutely.
Yeah. I think that's a good way to put it. I think when we think of safety, then we have to have someone like that's guarding us, or someone that is patrolling and making sure that there's no one out. Like there's this fear mindset of when we think of safety, but it's actually like it's just like looking at your neighbor. Is your neighbor okay? If your neighbor's okay, is your other neighbor? I think it should be like based off of love instead of fear.
Right?
Yeah.
Beautiful.
It's definitely, I mean, like, what it makes me think of when you say that is, like, I think it comes down to, like, what mindset a person is in, whether they're going for, like, personal satisfaction, for lack of a better word, or if it's, like, group satisfaction. So, like, small scale, somebody who has their own car versus carpooling, you know? Like, sometimes people break away from the group mindset, or like the holistic everybody, because they got to focus on themselves. Not that it's an excuse, but I think like there's definitely a divide.
Well, I think that's a very good point, and that is something that we should bear in mind. So one of the things that I think the Western New York Peace Center has tried to do is to have that collective in mind. So when you're talking about, you know, the good of the community, right? And it does make me think of like peace through justice in a sort of a way. So, you know, it's about the collective, what's good for the collective, what's just for the collective. And then you're gonna, if you're going to have a just society where people's needs are met, you know, and there is some equity, and there is, you know, it's not, it's equity, not equality, right? Because different people have different needs, so they need different things or different amounts depending on their situation. So, so anyway, that sort of a just society will be a peaceful society because the impetus for violence wouldn't be there.
Yeah, and crime is really, I think crime. I think I did I took a sociology class in college, and most of the time, crime is the cause is poverty.
Right.
And if we did focus on equity instead of equality, we would be thinking of like, what do people need so that they can get to the next level? What do people need so that they can survive? So they don't have to run to other things that are probably that are a crime. Instead, they can be supported by the community or the government.
And the other thing is that people need to deal with our broken alert systems, right? How people don't feel good because we're all stressed out, you know, for real worries or other worries, you know, but the broken alert systems. And that's one of the things. I know Deidre's doing a group right now, a mind-body skills group, and she's going to do another one when this one is over. So that's something that people could look to, you know, in the next couple of weeks, I think. I don't know exactly when it's going to end, when she's starting a new one. But that's another need, you know, and that's another need for really back to the criminal justice system is dealing with a lot of people with the mental health issues and the substance abuse issues that are so often about self-medicating are, you know, mental health issues. And our broken alert systems, why we don't feel good.
And since we're on the topic of crime, school is back, and school is back on, so we have to be mindful that there's going to be people with mental health issues that are going to come into the schools like in the past and, you know, bring a gun. And I think that it's happened every single year in America. and now school is back in. We're gonna have to like be on that alert. We have to be alert about that reality as well.
Oh boy.
It's so scary you bringing that up, and I never thought of it like that.
Oh, now I'm going to say the fact that you brought that up, it's just, what is
But
that?
it
What do
happens
they call
every
it?
single year. What
No,
are we
doorknob
supposed-
therapy. So now you've got us on for that's going to be a different show. We can't start dealing with that in this show.
But it's crime.
Oh, well, it is. It's big. It's big. It's
Yeah.
huge. It's huge. We have and actually we need to do a show and do a lot about gun issues, violence issues, and safety issues. Back to that. As we said,
I definitely would have a couple things to talk about on that topic.
Oh, we
Yeah.
definitely need to.
Yeah.
Well, so I want to just give us, if we can just go around for people to just share a final thought, that we've talked a lot about different things in the criminal justice system, different possible things that the Peace Center has been promoting and our allies have been promoting. I don't know that we hit all of them. We didn't even talk about qualified immunity, which is a big issue that I love to talk about. There's so much that needs to be done. So one thing that people can do to help is just contact us at the Western New York Peace Center, and you could help with some of these campaigns. We can put you in touch with Ladaisha, who's working with Free the People. So there's more to follow, and there'll be more Talking Peace to follow. So meanwhile, just a quick, what's some of your final thought on criminal justice system, the Western New York Peace Center's role in the criminal justice system?
The Western New York Peace Center's role is to spread awareness and promote justice and peace. And that's my final thought on
Oh,
that.
thanks, Sameria. And Chuck?
Yeah, as Karima Amin said some years ago, persistence and determination. If you don't come back, if you go make a little noise, you go away, the issue goes away. People are distracted very easily.
Well,
So,
I have to break in to say the persistence that you and Monica have shown, and other people join you at times. I haven't been there for a while, but I'll surprise you one of these Wednesdays. So people should come out on Wednesday from either say 4 to 3. So you're starting at 3 now? Okay, so I'll always put it out as 3 now. So 3 to 5? 3 to 5 on any Wednesday. You can bring your own sign or just come. Either way, right in front of the holding center, 40 Delaware. So that's an example of persistence. You are very persistent, and we're grateful.
thanks.
Thanks, Chuck. And Ladaisha?
It's so much work to be done. The Western New York Peace Center has been putting in work since I feel day one. I'm great to be a part of the family
Oh, we're
and
grateful.
get this work done together. But it's definitely always consistent. We've been in the criminal justice game for a long time. It's not the only game that we're in, but it's ongoing.
Well, it's so big, and the need is so great.
Yeah.
So anyway, well, I'm so grateful for all of you and for all the
Grateful
people
for
who've
you,
worked so
Vicky.
hard, for all our allies, and for all the things that we're going to do together and that will persist. We'll persevere and persist until we get where we need to go, and it will be together. That's what they say. If you want to go fast, go by yourself. But if you want to go far, then go together.
I
So,
was just trying to think of that line
Yep.
yesterday, and I couldn't remember
It's an
the last
African
of it.
proverb. I
yes, it
believe.
is.
I
Yes,
love
it
it.
is. Well, and we're gonna end, or just think of Harambe, or juntos, right? Together, together. Well, so this is
Harambe.
Harambe, Harambe, Harambe. That's Kiswahili. Anyway, we're so grateful to all of you who've been part of this. Together, we've been talking peace, and together we are talking peace in truth and love.
Amen.
Thanks so much. Great job, everyone.